Malika.
Yes.
It's beautiful outside, and traffic is alive.
Yes, I was almost late.
Well,
you was later than me. I was like, oh, good.
I'm late. We on time.
Usually we're here like 30 minutes before, but today it was like right on the dot.
You trying to?
The traffic was bad.
I think because the weather is getting nice. You can't forget that it's feel good. Is it feel good Friday?
Oh, you already okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you all good? Okay.
Yes, and so we had.
That was Sylvia Snowden.
Hey, Sylvia.
So it's Friday, and what do we do on Fridays?
We do Youth Fridays. Though lately we've been having some young people on who got old souls.
Old souls.
Yes.
Yes.
And Jersey Shabazz is definitely an old soul. This man has been here
Hey.
before.
So welcome to the show. So is he
Thanks
too?
for having
Is
me.
he too old for us to adopt?
No, we can adopt him. I call him my angel.
All right. Well,
call
go
him
ahead.
my
Go ahead and introduce him.
Well, we have with us today Jersey Shabazz. He's a strategist in community development, organizing. Some people consider him an activist. I'm from Evanston. He doesn't live in Evanston. He's not from Evanston, but the man has done work in Evanston, and we consider him a silent beast in Evanston. Yes.
Okay, a silent beast.
I call him
Thank
my
you,
angel.
So what are you a beast of?
I mean, I think that the narrative goes that I work well with people.
Oh.
So I think working well with people, sky's the limit when that happens. And so, with other folks in Evanston that care about similar issues, we've been able to really push out a community perspective that I feel would have remained repressed had we not come together around issues that were concerning. And so I don't consider myself, special in any particular way. I just have a sincere sort of approach to the work. And so it's one of the things I'm serious about in terms of how we look at organizing and strategizing around community change. And it's actually how I met Malika.
Okay, so now let's go back.
Okay.
So now, tell us more introduce him.
Well, do you want me to tell you about how we met?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. We met because there was some controversy going on in Evanston around a particular media person who is a well-to-do South African white woman. And, she kind of thinks, some people believe she believes she's the voice of the black people.
And she's South African?
She's South African, white South African.
Well, I mean, do people allow her what makes her feel that she could be the voice of the Negro?
Jersey, you want to answer that? Because he called her out in the most intellectual academia type of way where people were like, they had to go back and read what he had written like over and over. And then there was a video clip and he grabbed the video clip of her saying something that was very telling and exposing. She exposed herself, many believe.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
But that's not. But I don't. Is that how you got your claim to fame? You're more than that. So we could get to that.
He is more than that.
Let's get to that first. I mean, because it's not.
Yeah.
Because guess what happens? If we make it about her, then it's about her.
Right.
This
The
is
point
about
is he organized. He organized.
He's an organizer?
He's an organizer, and it was very impactful. Whereas usually people just get emotional about things, and they just go out there and just say stuff and attack or whatever, and then nothing gets done. But Jersey is very good at organizing and making sure that it has impact and that there's some understanding to it all, to the movement.
Well, I'll tell you what I've heard from Jersey from the beginning that I really admire is that he says that we have to work with people.
Yes.
That's the key, building
Mm-hmm.
collaborations and working with people. But that's important. And today we see that being a problem in politics today, that people don't know how to work together, to collaborate, to get things done. And so for you to be an organizer that want to bring people together, that's really important.
Yeah, I have to say the work around what was a call to accountability, that was work that I was able to build on. So prior to me, in collaboration with other folks,
recording in progress,
drafting this letter, there were already call-ins and call-outs, and so those were ineffective. And I guess I was sort of, in dialogue with others about it being ineffective because this person did not acknowledge harm that they have done. They didn't do anything to self-correct. And these kind of characteristics were like reflected in their work. And the harm that they had did that sort of, for me, I was sort of appalled, was actually accidentally captured on a Zoom call that they forgot to clip out. It was prior to the event started and the Zoom was recording, and then they released it. And then there were, 100 people that saw it, and it was pretty diminishing. And so, this sort of behavior was already known in the community. And so I crafted a letter with others and got other folks to review it. So it wasn't just my voice coming through. And, I think the outcome of that was, it was larger, to your point, LaShawn, it was larger than just one person. I think it really sort of shifted the understanding of individuals in this particular community around,
so what community? I'm trying to understand. We have to know what communities you're talking about. So let's go to what brought you to the work of organizing and being an organizer? What got you interested in that type of work?
Well, that's a good question. I think that my lived experience is really the catalyst for me being a part of organizing communities and seeking social justice. So having that experiential knowledge, and then my education is in justice studies and women and gender and sexuality studies from Northeastern Illinois University. And, it's in my family as well.
Any personal experiences? Because Malika tells me that you talk about equity a lot. What type of equity are you that really, because normally when you deal with organizing efforts, it's either you had personal experiences, someone experiences, and I hear you talk about equity.
So I think my personal experience is born and raised in Rogers Park, low income. I was taught about abolition at a really early age. I was a part of a program called Inside Arts. Surviving DCFS as a trans queer kid, being awarded a state, being in the foster system, and living in Rogers Park in the 90s was like, it was unbelievable. We were sort of like in the middle of like the war on drugs, and that was very apparent, right? My father would organize Vietnam vets against the war when he came out of war. And so, I was raised with a sort of like understanding that when you bring people together around a certain issue, change can happen. And we've seen that, across history. And it's really the only thing that's ever changed anything for the better. And you hear this and this, and many of us feel this deep in our hearts and our souls, because the systems sort of that are around us, I think they're touted as they're supposed to be systems that care for us, but oftentimes there's unintentional and intentional harm. So in terms of organizing, that's really what shepherded me into this space. And I've always been surrounded by folks that are committed to other people, whether we're at the microcosm level and we're talking about our neighbors and our immediate families and our loved ones, or the children in our communities. So like, folks working on national campaigns, right? And so that's something that is important to me, and it's always going to be important to me. Currently, I serve as the Deputy Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion for the state of Illinois in the Governor's Office of Equity. And that has just been extremely fulfilling. And, at no point do we separate what we know to be true and our fight for equity at the state level. And so there's a lot of energy around equity in general at this point in our lives.
Jersey, didn't I see you at yes, and I said to Malika, we got to.
Yes.
Oh, it's all.
He sent me a picture of the two of you, and I said, "That's Jersey Shabazz."
Yes, and so yes, and I actually celebrated the. I was at the equity banquet, right? Did we see each other there?
Mm-hmm.
No, we didn't. No,
where
we saw each other. We saw each other at the governor's mansion for the breakfast for the Black Caucus.
Right. Yes,
right.
That's what we took. Yes, very good.
Yeah.
So Malika.
Yes.
So you know him, and he told me you were powerful, and that's
I said that. I did say that. LaShawn, you got a good memory.
Jersey. When you get older, it takes time for things
it's okay.
to come
You
back.
don't have to apologize. No, please don't. Don't apologize. It's okay.
All right.
Well, what I've always found fascinating about, one, I call him my angel. What I found fascinating.
You never call me your angel.
You
see this? She know that I hold grudges for a long time, and now I'm going to hold this judge against her, Jersey, because on our other show, she I think she told Reven Fellows, what you tell him, I love you or something.
Yes.
And now you're her angel, and so I'll remember that.
LaShawn, I think the West Side of Chicago might see you as an angel. So.
All right. Look at them bailing you out. But you still in trouble.
Remember I told you there were people that said that you're the angel of the West Side? He was one of those people that told me that.
All right.
See?
But go right ahead.
So, Jersey is not a black man, but he goes to bat for the black community. I would love to hear more about what the work has been like for the LGBTQ
That's good.
community. Like what I've seen you go to bat for us. You're this white man, and some people when they hear Jersey's voice, they're like, "He is not white." I was like, "He's white. Yeah. He's going to bat for us. Yes, all the time." So what's that been like for you?
First, I always try to make sure that I'm not exceptionalized in any particular way. I'm just trying to do the best I can do with the tools that I have, the knowledge that I have, and I'm trying to remain committed and grounded in my politics and centered in my hard work. So I appreciate you, Malika, and I respect you and adore you and love you so much. So thank you, and it's always a pleasure to work aside you, to learn aside you, and to be considered, a kin and a comrade to you. So thank you so much. So organizing, in the LGBTQi2+ community is ongoing, like it is for any other oppressed and repressed and harmed community. The work is never ending, and I think there's a lot of solidarity with queer folks and trans folks and non-binary folks in all sort of like identity groups. We know that queerness is something that transcends across race and every other demographic, and we have to know that that's real, that we have trans people, we have queer people that are old and that are Black, that are disabled, that are immigrant. And so, it's been a struggle my whole life, trying to get people to not erase you, trying to get people to see you as equal. And on a personal level, that's caused a lot of harm, and I think that a lot of us that are oppressed and marginalized, we understand that harm, and it takes us, if we're fortunate, it takes us years to sort of like undo that harm and to unlearn, what we've internalized as true about ourselves and about the people that we love. And so I think that this work like lives certainly in myself, but it also lives in the communities that I love and I fight for. And this work lives among children. We see more and more LGBTQi2 plus children coming out and feeling brave, and when I see that, that moves me to ensure that there are systems in place and that there are communities in place for them to fully thrive in ways that I would never, have. And that's okay, right? Because we're not doing this work for us. We're doing this work for future generations. And so I just try to make sure that that's centered in my work and I decenter myself. And I think, Malika, you and I have talked about that a lot. And I think a part of what makes social justice work successful is when we do like decenter ourselves, not to the point of erasure, but to the point of like the alleviation of ego and narcissism. And I think these things are to some degree because of capitalism and because of, patriarchy and maleness and various hierarchies that we lead. We've been taught to lead, and it has to be about self, but it doesn't have to be about self. And so, that fight, the queer fight and the trans fight and non-binary fight is ongoing.
You have to explain that. We really would like for you to explain the difference that you just said. You said the queer fight, and you said the
queer, the
trans fight, and non-binary.
Let's talk about those. Let's go to the non-binary first.
Right.
What does that mean?
Non-binary people are folks that don't necessarily ascribe to a particular presentation. They may biologically ascribe to something and that's certainly personal and doesn't ever have to be disclosed. But in terms of presentation, you may see like I read a short article when I was in undergrad, and it was this baby, and it was called Baby X. And I remember I didn't necessarily feel connected to the article, but everybody was really excited about it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll give this article a try, because we had about 7 articles we could pick from, but we had to pick about 5. And so that was one of them I decided to pick. And it was about the reaction to people when they can't know, quite frankly, the genitalia of a baby or of a person. And so this baby was like Baby X. It was non-binary, and you would take the baby to get a haircut, and then they would try to charge the baby, for the haircut, and they were like, well, is that a boy or a girl? And they were like, well, it's neither. What's the price? Or where someone would walk up to the baby like, that is a beautiful little, and they were like, is that a boy or a girl? It's like, oh, it's just a baby. And then people would like freak out. It was like, well, is it a boy or a girl? And so I think that there's a special power with being non-binary, because you're consistently always holding that space of being in the middle. And you consistently, I think, you challenge people to think about presentation and gender in a different way. And I think what that does is how folks react to non-binary people who don't ascribe to a particular presentation of male or female, that binary. I think that what that brings out of people are their real commitments to traditional gender, right? And so, because I have to know.
You have to know what?
Right, exactly, right.
Oh, you're saying people have to know, or you have to know?
People have to know, right?
Is there a good reason why people need to know whether or not you are a a male or female. I mean, people say that you're going to treat a female different than you treat a male.
Sure.
Is there any validity to that?
I think for some people that's true. Like, I have sisters that I grew up with, and they to some degree ascribe to some traditional westernized understandings of femininity, right? And I certainly respect that, right? But they also have a vast understanding of what it means. One of my sisters is Black, and so she has a very vast understanding of what it means to be a Black woman. And so sometimes she thinks that, that can be patronizing, or it can be belittling for somebody to sort of do something for her because she is a woman and she feels that she can do it herself.
So we only have a few minutes. Finish that part up.
This was so
because we need to talk about he, him, and.
Right.
So we need to hear that. His, yeah. and then we want to talk about the trans. The trans community is having a very tough time, and I condemn any hate against gay and trans. So I condemn. I stand with you and the community, and it's my community too. You guys are not alone. This is our community. This is our people. But
that's so good to hear. The pronouns are a thing. That's something.
You're about to teach a lot of people. We're going to make sure that this is a part. So get it. All right.
Right. Pronouns, we'll start with pronouns and signatures and like why they may be important and why they might not be important to you. In signatures, if you have what's called like a androgynous or gender neutral name, like your name is Sam, I may write you an email and I might not know if I should call you Miss or Mr. For me, it doesn't matter because I always default to they pronouns, which is the non-binary pronouns, and I also don't, see people in that binary. And so but that's my own socialization, but that's also my own work that I've done over time to do so. So I'm less concerned about the gender, and that's ultimately, we should all try to get there. Because that's something that our gender matters to ourselves, and how we present matters to ourselves. Like, we just want respect in the bodies that we're living in. We just want to be respected. And so in signature blocks, I think they're important. One, I think for queer people, it sends, if you're not a queer person, it sends a signal to queer people that you understand that pronouns are important, mostly because there can be transitions, right? There can be transitions from one gender to another. And so if that's occurring, we need to make sure that if folks want to identify as a man one day and a woman the next, we need to make sure that we're on top of that. We're not pigeonholing someone to something that is not necessarily who they are. And so I think that, the pronouns are important because it's respect. And if you're a straight person, a cisgender person, a non-queer person, and you have some battle with the pronouns, I think for me that's not just about the pronouns, right? Like, it starts with the pronouns, but it's really about something larger, because it's just like, if someone asks me to do something in solidarity with them and they are of oppressed community, I just try to do it.
So does the pronouns identify whether you're gay or straight?
It doesn't. It does not.
Okay.
At all. Yeah, and I think that, LaShawn, thank you for asking that, because I think that when people decide, it's like if I decide to have class solidarity with poor folks, and hypothetically speaking, I'm a rich millionaire, folks may think, well, why are you in solidarity with poor people and you're not poor, right? And so I get it, right? But we have to move past identity politics. We have to move past the idea that I will be in solidarity with you because you and we share that same identity. And quite frankly, sharing the same identity can be problematic to a certain extent, because that's how we, crystallize like oppressive dominant groups, right? Like when men have solidarity with one another and I see, some guy say something violent about a woman, I show up in that space, and immediately because I'm male, they may expect me to feel the same way that they feel about that woman over there. But the minute I say, wait a minute, man, that's sexist, that's gender violence, like that's not okay, that's unacceptable, then immediately I break that code. Right?
Now,
and I challenge that power system.
I got to challenge you a little bit. So now
deep.
it's so deep because now you said, and this is where it comes, where he says something about a female. But if you don't know that that's a female, how do you protect her gender?
And,
well, I think
and you have some that want to be female today, but not female tomorrow. So like it gets
and it does. And you know, I get it. Like I get it. But all we can do is, so if I misgender somebody, which it happens, like us queer folks, we slip up all the time.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So we do that, and what we're like, you know, black folks are not asking for white folks to be perfect, and like queer and trans folks are not asking for cis and straight people to be perfect.
Okay.
Right. And I think that you know, we have to reinstill that humanity. Like, if somebody misgenders me, you know, I'm certainly not gonna like freak out on them, right? What I do expect them to do
introduce yourself right now with your pronouns.
I'm Jersey Shabazz, he, him, his pronouns.
Okay.
But if somebody just had like a Freudian slip, for instance, and said she, my bad, he, I wouldn't like freak out, right? And I think that, you know, I read a meme the other day, and it talked about the way sometimes we react is visceral, and it's a reflection of, you know, the carceral state, the prison industrial complex, like punitive measures, like you misgender somebody and then they freak out and they harm you with their words. You know, like that can't be the communities that we're building. Like if you misgender her, she's gonna be hurt, but I do expect you to be like, I'm sorry, Michelle, I didn't mean to misgender you. I apologize. You know, and it's okay. And we should be able to move past that moment.
Right.
It's not to say that there's not harm that's done, but it's to say that we should be trying to work towards, you know, a compassionate, forgiving community.
Mm-hmm.
Jersey, so I know you're doing a lot of this work on the state level. I mean, this is what you do. What, you know, I don't want this to come off, but what about like the Rachel Dolezals of the world? I mean, is that kind of thing? Because she really believes she's a black woman.
And we only have 30 seconds, so I don't think we can get to that. But I do want to give
you. This needs to be a 2-hour show.
We need another show, but we have 30 seconds. I think that you should give some tribute to the trans community because they've been going through a lot. 30 seconds. Will you do that? We would like to give you 30 seconds and close.
Yeah, LaShawn, thank you so much for ending with that. That means a lot to me. You know, trans folks are beautiful and deserve to be pretty humane and deserve the freedom that they're asking for and that they're fighting for. Trans people have always existed. We are here. We are not going anywhere. And when we hear somebody like you, LaShawn, say, the trans community is my community, that's that kind of vision and that's that kind of love that we need. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me and bringing me on your show and really centering, you know, trans lives.
Well, this requires a part 2.
Yes,
this has been another episode of Chicago Hill. Thank you, Jersey. Malika.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Jersey.
Have
Thank
a good
you
one.
both.
We adopt you.
You are son.
All right.
Have a good day. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.